What's down, guys? My name's Doris Charming, and today I'm here with Grant from Grant.com, although you're probably not surprised to see him here once again. How are you today, Grant?
I'm doing pretty okay. Yourself?
I'm excited because today we're going to talk about some things that some other people in the Nancy Drew community are too afraid to talk about because they don't want to be hunted down by the FBI or anything. But I think we have more balls than that.
Yeah, the amount of balls clearly supersedes every other Nancy Drew channel. Let's be real here.
Alright, yeah, we're on the same page here. Alright, so basically what we're doing today is I've got a list of some conspiracy theories revolving around some of the Nancy Drew games. Some of them people have talked about before, and I think a couple of them are just kind of me and Grant just pull them out of our asses and are like, you know what, maybe this is a thing. So we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to start with one that I've seen a couple of people talk about, but not too many. But Grant, I'm going to get your opinion on this one. Okay, so, number one being the conspiracy theory about Jane's guinea pig from Curse of Blackmore Manor.
You had a guinea pig?
Yes, but it died.
When?
I don't know. I'd really rather not think about it, alright?
So, as we all know, we've played the game, and Jane used to have a guinea pig, and it died. And of course, when Nancy looks at the photograph of it, Jane gets really upset and she refuses to really talk more about it. And there's this crazy theory that since Jane is, spoiler alert, the culprit, and is a little bit of a psychotic child, she experimented on the guinea pig and used it as like a test subject before doing anything to her new stepmother, as in like giving it Mrs. Drake's pills and just experimenting in that kind of way to the point where the guinea pig could not handle it and then died. And then Jane was like, wow, this is so evil of me, let's do this again and do it to my stepmother and maybe she'll die. Get out of the picture. So Grant, how do you think about this one?
I feel like because of Linda's eventual fate in The Curse of Blackmore Manor, it's certainly more plausible than your average Nancy Drew crackpot theory. But I personally think that while it's possible, I don't think it was necessarily what the how do I say this scriptwriter of Blackmore Manor intended per se. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
It's a possibility that Jane. I almost called her Jane Willoughby. it's a possibility that Jane tested her methods that she would later use on Miss Linda Petrov on her guinea pig, but I feel like Jane is a smart cookie. I feel like she would know not to like necessarily do that type of thing because, like, you know, the guinea pig would die in that case. And I guess if you think that the theory is true, it probably did die because of it. You know what I mean?
Right, and the big thing here is Jane was so clearly upset about the guinea pig dying, unless that was an act. Like, why would she even want to risk hurting it anyway? You know, that's definitely kind of like the big thing there, where I'm like, So I guess it's safe to say, Grant, that this one's more of a nay than a yay, right?
Yeah, it's not exactly impossible, but I don't think it's like, you know, the case that this theory is like real.
Well, there you have it. Our opinion on this conspiracy theory. I think it's funny. I think it's a pretty good one that someone really went out of their way to say Jane purposely killed her guinea pig and was like, it might die.
I actually think, yeah, it's very silly.
It's silly, but that's why we're here today. We're here to talk about it, and we're here to fucking just try to figure out if something is real or not. All right.
Yeah, get used to it.
Exactly. Okay, so for conspiracy number 2, this one is probably like the most popular one I've seen that people talk about because people are like, what is this? And they're confused by it and they're like, who is this person? So basically, at the end of Phantom of Venice, in the ending letter, Colin is so clearly upset and, you know, he's talking to Nancy on the phone And he's asking her, oh, so did you get your necklace back, the one, that Ned gave you, because he's your boyfriend and he loves you so much? And she's like, oh yeah, I got it. And then I believe there was a moment of silence before he was like, okay, cool, and then he hung up on her.
As for Colin, he called me once out of the blue. He had read about the Phantom's capture and had just one question. Did I get my locket back? When I said I had and was wearing it, there was a long silence, then he just hung up. For a while, I felt bad.
During that, there's a shadowy figure, and it's clearly not Colin, because Colin was sitting down and looking at the ground, and this shadowy figure was standing, I believe, by the window. People have been thinking about this, and people have been saying that maybe the shadow figure there is in fact Samantha Quick. And, Samantha Quick, made those few appearances in the video game, and she somehow knew Nancy really well and knew Ned really well, and she was like, oh, say hi to Ned for me when they got off the phone that one time they talked. And so it's pretty weird, and it didn't explain anything. We didn't get any answers there, but that being said, with that mysterious figure being there with Colin, it's probably Samantha Quick, according to some people. So how do you feel about this one?
I don't know, do you think it's Samantha Quick or no?
I would like to believe it, just for the hell of it, just to kind of add some spice to the video game and the lore behind it. But it's just that, with her interactive being not exactly known for that kind of thing. There's been a couple of other times where during an ending letter they were like, wait, something doesn't really seem right over here. Something has been unanswered. I don't really understand what's going on here. You didn't answer this question for me. I'm still confused. That hasn't happened too much. That might have happened in one or two games or so. The fact that there is just this figure standing there, and it was a very awkward phone call between Ned and Colin. Sorry, did I say Ned? I meant Nancy.
Yeah, it's not Ned.
Nancy and Colin, sorry. Yeah,
I would like to make a phone call between Ned and Colin, honestly.
That would be fucking, you know what, that would be so fucking awesome. If you're asking for my opinion, I think I want to say yes. Just like I said, to add some spice to this, I'd like to believe it was, because who else could it be? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I want to hear what you think about, whether or not Her Interactive had in mind Samantha Quick's eventual fate in The Silent Spy. Spoilers for whoever hasn't played that game, but let's just say that Samantha Quick does make an appearance in game number 28. I believe that's the number. Do you think they planned it, for Samantha Quick to be that character, or no?
The first time Samantha Quick has ever been spoken of was the final scene. At the time, it was definitely just some random ass name that Simone was like, oh, you should be Samantha Quick. At the time, I think it was way too early for anyone to think anything of it. And then later again in fucking The Phantom of Venice, they were probably like, oh, what would be funny if we brought back this name from the 5th game that we ever made. And then, Samantha Quick, being a spy, I guess, because that's what everyone speculated, because in The Phantom of Venice came before The Silent Spy. And that's the first game we got where we're kind of in spy mode, you know what I mean? And we're doing spy thingies, fucking shit like that. And then of course when The Silent Spy came along, they were like, ooh, maybe this is our opportunity to do something with Samantha Quick. And I think they kind of always had her in mind. And I think, them for some reason deciding Kate Drew was once a spy and we're going to make a whole video game about it. I don't know. I guess you could say they were kind of planning a little bit of it, but I don't know if I think it's anything I don't know, deeper than that.
The reason why I ask is because I feel like they could have at least mentioned her being being in cahoots with Colin, if that was the case. When Silent Spy eventually came around. Although, at the same time, it doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? It would be a case of Tina being remember that last train to Blue Moon Canyon?
Well, another thing to mention maybe is that, Colin being suspicious, even though Colin didn't end up being the culprit, he was going by, a different name, had a different alias, and, was kind of still a little suspicious. So I guess it'd be kind of cool if you want to really, stretch it out even more and be like, oh, so Colin and Samantha Quick were in cahoots, and the reason why Colin was so in Nancy's face about Ned is because Samantha Quick told him to do so, because, I don't know, because who knows, that her interactive was maybe planning ahead like we said they probably could have been doing, but, you know, it's like you said.
I feel like if Colin was a spy or like a spy subsidiary with Samantha, he did a pretty bad job because he literally like gave away the box with Nico's eventual next target to Nancy, you know what I mean? He was, from what I recall, he was called up by Margarita to restore the Canas Costa using the cheapest materials, and what he ended up using was not the cheapest materials. So I feel like if he was a sort of like spy subsidiary or like a ally of Samantha Quick, I feel like he had his like ulterior motives. It wasn't really exactly like a plant that they, you know, used to spy on Margarita or Helena or whatever. I feel like Colin is just kind of a passerby. And in that sense, well, he's not exactly a passerby, he's like related to the case, but I feel like he wasn't exactly like in cahoots with Samantha, is all I can say. Okay. And in that sense, it's a little bit harder to believe that that woman at the end of Phantom of Venice is really her. Yeah, couple that with like the fact that really Samantha Quick only has like one phone call with Nancy where she's like, "You've used my branding, how dare you, Nancy Drew. Say hi to Ned for me, bye-bye."
Yeah, I mean, it's going to remain a mystery, and we have a couple of theories here, but, you know, we're not BuzzFeed Unsolved or anything. Okay, so, next conspiracy theory. This one, I guess you could also put into the silly category, but since I'm a sucker for these kind of things, and I think you might already know what I'm talking about here. So, Danger on Deception Island. Fantastic game. I think it's awesome. But Grant, did you know that Katie and Jenna were actually lovers, and then they broke up, and now they're enemies, and there's that really, like, weird tension there. It's actually because, well, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I was trying to make it all suspenseful. Come on, okay. Anyways, there it is. The conspiracy theory is that Katie and Jenna were lovers. They dated. They broke up. Perhaps the feelings are still there, or perhaps they're just really fucking bitter about the breakup, and that's why they just like are at each other's throats. More Jenna than Katie. Grant, I don't know if you've noticed.
Jenna is a lot more like, how do I say this? She's a lot more aggressive towards like any mention of Katie Firestone than Katie is towards any mention of Jenna, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think this theory is probably the most, like, believable one yet, is my personal opinion. Like, this, well, in part because there's not much to go off of. There's, like, only a couple of times that Jenna and Katie sort of mention each other, but what they do say of each other kind of does track with this, like, yeah, maybe they like, one of them like disappointed the other, right. And they sort of like are on bad terms since, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost like you can sense some kind of like betrayal. Like one of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a betrayal, but like didn't exactly feel right.
Right.
But the animosity between them certainly like is sort of like. It's emblematic of this sort of relationship trouble that we've seen time and again in, you know, even in other Nancy Drew games, I feel like.
But considering this was the 9th game, it was still, you know, the first interface they were kind of using, and they haven't really had a, like, canon LGBTQ plus character until I believe it was Sea of Darkness when it was really kind of heavily implied that Dagny had a girlfriend, right? And of course, there's like in the Deadly Device, Ellie has like a picture of this girl on her desk, and everyone's like, maybe it's her girlfriend. But for the idea of them kind of having that at the back of their minds, thinking like, well, you know what? Maybe we just won't talk about it too much, but Katie and Jenna, we can just say they were lovers at one point, and maybe technically they're the first, not exactly confirmed, but maybe they're there, and they were the first kind of, gay couple that we did have and were kind of introduced to the series, even if, it's a bit of a stretch and we could be wrong. I think it's a pretty fun one to think about, honestly, and I kind of agree with you that like, I can believe it, and you know what? I ship it. And you know me, Grant. Holy fuck, do I love, like, an enemies to lovers trope. Although, I guess in this case, it's lovers to enemies, but that's, like, every breakup ever. So.
Yeah, sure. If it truly was the case, then I just looked it up right here. Sea of Darkness was released in 2015, which I don't know if you can believe it, but was 8 years ago almost.
Holy shit.
Can you believe that? Yeah. And something even more crazy is Danger on Deception Island was released in 2003, which means it's turning 20 soon, you know?
Gosh.
So in that case, if this truly was the first sort of LGBT representation in Nancy Drew, then Danger on Deception Island would have arrived 12 years early to the party.
I like the way you said that. So, Grant, this one I think is our first one on the list that we came up with ourselves, and it was like randomly out of nowhere too. We had this crazy idea, and this might even be my favorite one on the list for that reason. But did you guys know that Ralph Gardino from Stay Tuned for Danger is in the final scene? Let me explain. So, at the end of the game, you're about to finish the game, you're about to stop the theater from being demolished, and then, the cops show up and they gotta search the building before they, do all their business. And Nancy's like, damn, I gotta hide, they can't catch me, this isn't over yet. So she hides in Joseph's closet and in the projection room or whatever. And then Sergeant Ramsey, I guess, makes his appearance. Like, you don't see anything because you're just hiding in the closet, like, you don't see them come in, obviously. And you're just hearing them kind of talk in the background while they're searching for anyone that could be still in the building. And then there they go, and then, someone's like, oh, you see anything, Dino? Which, by the way, if it wasn't already kind of obvious at this point, I just mentioned that Ralph's full name, his last name is Gardino. So that's literally Sergeant Ramsey talking to Ralph and asking him if he sees anything suspicious, because he refers to him as Dino. But the crazier part, I know you're probably thinking, okay, stretch, totally a stretch. No, it's not. Because then when he replies, he literally speaks in Ralph's voice, and he's literally saying, all clear in here, Sarge.
See anything, Dino?
All clear in here, Sarge.
All clear in here, Sarge.
Literally talking like Ralph, kind of the same way Ralph goes like, forget about it, and Stay Tuned for Danger. And I'm gonna be honest, this is, I think, the first one on the list so far that I'm like, 100% true, this is no theory, this is fact, and I think it's like the greatest thing we've ever come up with together. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is not really even a theory, it's straight up like just true. This is the case,
Grant, for all we know, this has already been a thing and we have no idea about it and we look like idiots talking about it. Like, maybe he's even credited in the fucking credits or something. Maybe it's literally supposed to be him. But like, I don't think people have really noticed, because I haven't seen, no one's talked about it. At least, like, from what I know. Like, no one's ever said anything to me about it. Or you. We were hanging out one day and we were like, is that Ralph? Because he's like, Dino? Ralph Gardino? And he sounds like him? I don't know. It kind of did blow my mind, even if we might be a little late to the party, and who knows, maybe people have already kind of been like, oh, that's interesting. I, just on the other hand, am just, like, astonished, and I'm just like, I love the idea of Ralph going from, like, security guard from New York to an actual police officer in in like St. Louis. I don't know. Maybe he got a promotion. Good for him.
You said that people didn't really talk about it, and I feel like that's like a case of Stay Tuned for Danger being not necessarily underrated, but more so like underplayed. I feel like everyone I know who actually played Stay Tuned for Danger loves the game, but not a lot of people actually played it. You know what I mean?
That is true.
The primary cause of it, I feel like, is the difficulties that you have with actually getting Stay Tuned for Danger on your computer. Because it's like one of the few video games, it's kind of like in the realm of the original Secrets Can Kill, but a little bit like less so because of one disc and such. It's kind of like in that realm of being like an old game where like there's compatibility problems and it's not on Steam and such and such and such.
Yeah, exactly. You're right about that. The people that do talk about Stay Tuned for Danger, though, are probably fucking the best people, though. Because, like, come on, it's so good.
Yeah, people don't really know Stay Tuned for Danger that well, but I feel like it's like one of the best Nancy Drew games out there. This is a little bit off topic, though, but what I do mean is that if more people had played Stay Tuned for Danger before they moved on to Final Scene, I feel like people would have 100% noticed that, like, oh yeah, this is Ralph, like, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to hope that maybe, like, once we, like, put this video out and, we show our friends, because we haven't said this to them yet, we were, keeping it for the video, and, I don't know, if no one else has kind of noticed it before, and they notice it now, I would feel really fucking, like, wow, like, I totally did my job correctly here. On to a different conspiracy theory that oh boy, now this one brings us back, like, 2 years ago pretty much, when we were playing Message in a Haunted Mansion. Well...
Oh my god. I know exactly what you're trying to say here.
I know, I just don't want to say it though, but I have to, it's on the list. We're gonna talk about it anyway, because it counts, I suppose. So... At the end of the game, when you're about to find the treasure, when you go up on the stairs, you hear this, like, laughter.
It says ghostly laugh.
That's literally Louis.
So much more high pitch.
Fucking Louis.
That's
It's
Louis.
supposed to make you think it's a ghost. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Of course
that's
it's going
the
to
cool
be
part of
so
the game.
Louis.
That does not sound like Louis. It sounds more high pitched.
It's
way more
like
high-pitched. And, as you know, when you go into Abby's room, you discover she's really, like, behind a lot of the, supposed, like, supernatural events, because she's got this, like, audio player, and she's, like, playing sound effects of ghosts, women crying, babies giggling, or whatever it was, so it's kind of like your proof that, okay, there is no ghost, and Abby's just playing around with everyone, and she's tricking everyone. The thing is, though, that laughter that you hear at the top of the stairs before you finish the game is, like, pretty much the one sound effect and the only one there in Abby's room that doesn't exist. Like, it's not there. So people are like, oh, this is the real one. This one's actually the ghost. And then, of course, the first time we talked about this, well, let's just say a certain someone decided to point out, I think it's actually Louis. I think that's Louis laughing. Because, he's the culprit, and he's laughing. I don't know. Why is he laughing again? Why is he laughing? Like, can you tell me, Grant, why do you think he's laughing if that was Louis?
Because, he's about to get the money.
Okay, so he's like, aha, yes, Nancy's about to find the treasure for me that I'm gonna...
Oh, no. He's more like...
Yeah, I mean, the video is still up on the Bodacious Bunch channel, obviously, of us having this debate and kind of trying to prove and, prove to one another, like, oh...
that channel, though.
God, that brings me back, and there's, like, a whole video on it, and we were, like, so fucking passionate about this, and, like, you know what? No, it doesn't end there. Shout out to my man, Hugh Miller. I hope he watches this video. Because Hugh Miller has figured out, who did that laugh and who voiced it. Because I came to him with this as well. And then he even made a Twitter poll about it too, where he was like, who do you guys think is the one laughing at the end of MHM? Is it Lewis or is it the ghost? And then he ended up asking a friend of his who, like, he's known for a really long time, someone who has worked with Her Interactive. And they literally told him, oh yeah, it was me, I did the voice. So it wasn't even Lewis's voice actor that did it. So in my opinion, that proves it wasn't Lewis. I really don't think it was, because it doesn't even sound like him in my opinion. And like, you know, we've been down this road before, but I'm gonna say it again. And really just, I would like to believe that Her Interactive wanted us to kind of realize, oh, well, maybe this place is haunted, and you know what? It's more like a, like, you decide kind of thing, you know? Like, I don't like the idea of it being like confirmed, oh yeah, no. That was this person in particular. I'm just like, you know what? Let me dream, let me have my moment. And that's kind of just my stance on that.
Kind of in the minority here on this theory being like, yeah, this is Lewis, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the evidence points to it being like a sort of ghost type of creature. Thank you, Hugh Miller from Nancy Drew Walkthroughs, by the way. But like, I don't know, I still get the feeling that it might be Lewis, I don't know.
Fine, believe what you want to believe. It's a conspiracy theory, I guess. You can believe what you want to believe, and I can't.
Leave it in the comments below. Who do you think it is? Is it Lewis? Is it a non-Lewis type of ghost creature? I certainly think it's Valdez. Okay. Valdez would never. He would not laugh like that. He would not be like.
Okay. Oh, Hugh, if you watch this. Oh god. Here's another one, actually, that I kind of, you know, feel a little bamboozled about myself. Like, not too much, but I think it's an interesting one for sure. And this one is from Secret of the Scarlet Hand. So, as we all know, in Secret of the Scarlet Hand, Henrik falls down the temple stairs, he gets hurt, he gets amnesia, he's like forgotten everything because of it, blah 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 blah. But the thing is, you know, how did he fall and why did he fall, right? And I guess you want to say, well, you know, there's a culprit of the game, the culprit pushed him. But like, if you really think about it, why? Why did the culprit exactly want to push Henrik? What reason did he have, especially in that moment? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But then we find out that what they used to make the red handprint, right, was made from cinnabar. And when you're on the phone with the people who sell that stuff to you, they're like, be careful with that, like, you know, that stuff can make you a little crazy, make you a little cuckoo, so... And, you know, the fact that we learn later in the game that Henrik is actually the one behind it, but he was doing it for the sake of, like, saving it, and, you know, like, keeping it safe, basically, from whoever's behind everything. But, you know, that also implies that, like, you know, he used it himself, and he got a little too close to it, and he was just in too much contact with the cinnabar to the point where, like the guy on the phone said, it makes you a little crazy. So what if Henrik just started, like, hallucinating and he wasn't all there, and he was, like, low-key high off of cinnabar to the point where he tripped and he fell down the stairs? That's where that theory kind of ends. So, your thoughts on this?
I feel like the latter sort of theory, where he like fell down the stairs on his own, is a little bit more plausible than spoilers, Taylor pushing him whenever he was in the museum. Because I don't know, I feel like with the whole like Taylor being like, meet me in my office, I feel like, would he really be in the museum to push him there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. If anything, like, who else was there? Joanna? Would Joanna really push Henrik?
It just, yeah, like, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, there's really no reason for anyone to want to push Henrik, really. That's just kind of... I used to think when I was younger, and, you know, whenever I played the game, I was like, God damn, that culprit Taylor Sinclair, confound him. Why would he push Henrik down the temple? Wow, that's so rude. But it's like, was it really him? Because now that like, you know, that theory is kind of out there, I'm like, you know what? I think that's pretty neat. I think his fall being an accident because of, like, Henrik's own doing. I really do like to believe that.
It's actually insane how like he got his memory back and he fucking went to the museum to meet Nancy going out of the monolith.
I know. What an incredible video game, man.
It's actually one of the best endings ever.
It's
I really don't
awesome.
care what anyone has to say about it. It's so
Exactly.
cheesy. It's so funny. Anyway, to get a little bit more on topic. Yeah, I don't think he pushed anything or got pushed by anyone. It's probably just like it's probably just a coincidence. I don't think there was anything like malicious being set up there, unless like it's a case of like there was an area you could click on this entire time, and you could see that there was like some slippery bullshit underneath it. Sorry for swearing. I don't know. I don't think Henrik was a real Jake Rogers type of character.
All right, Secret of the Old Clock, taking place in what, 1930, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and it's basically like, the one game of the series, pardon me, where it's not exactly kind of like canon. It really isn't. It's kind of like its own video game. It's in its own kind of like alternate universe. But the thing is, there is a conspiracy theory that the entire game was actually just Nancy's imagination as a child. Like, as a child, she's got this scenario in her head. She's playing with her toys, and she's like, I'm a detective, and I'm trying to find this old man's will for some reason, and also he died. But because in The Silent Spy, there are a couple of cutscenes of it being like flashbacks from when Nancy was a child. And for a brief moment in her bedroom, it's shown that she's playing with like a couple of toys like on her floor. And you can kind of see for a second there that like a lot of those toys are pretty much like just objects and things seen in Secret of the Old Clock, meaning like Nancy was just kind of playing around, and she was just like, because a child's imagination can be really fucking powerful sometimes. They can think of a lot of shit. So Secret of the Old Clock, like, really thinking about it just being like, just this mystery that we all know isn't like I said, it's not exactly the canon one, but like the idea of it actually being like, it's just something that came out of Nancy's playtime as a kid. I don't know. I find that pretty interesting. What about you?
And I think it's certainly plausible, and I would even go as far as to say, yeah, I like this explanation fine. Secret of the Old Clock possibly did just take place in Nancy's like mind palace. I mean, obviously, like the real reason why Secret of the Old Clock as a video game exists is because it was a book and such and such. Even though the video game combines like the first 4 books, from what I can recall, it's kind of an amalgamation from that perspective. But if you put the name of the first Nancy Drew book ever on a video game, it's kind of like a brand recognition thing. So, and it does take place in 1930, so you have to keep the setting. But how do you do that with your character who is established to exist in what's basically amounting to the modern day? This is kind of the explanation. Either like A, it was all a dream, or B, it was in Nancy's like mind the whole time.
And I do kind of think maybe her interactive was like, oh, Secret of the Old Clock reference? Let's do it. It's not. There really isn't much to it. But then, of course, us members of the Clue crew are like, I sense something here. It's a conspiracy theory. Ha ha ha. Now we're going to talk about something else that happens in The Silent Spy. So, as we all know, Nancy is kind of known for traveling places, not having any money for some reason, not really having anything except like a couple of objects in her bag, and it's just like, you're traveling overseas, you went from like North America to Europe, and you are like literally not prepared for your trip at all. You have like a cell phone, and that's pretty much it, and a pencil and whatever. And we also know that in Danger by Design, she's like, oh, they lost my luggage, like, so she actually brought stuff with her, but they lost it. So she's like borrowing clothes from JJ Ling. She's got like nothing in her fucking pockets. She's pretty much really, really empty. Doesn't even have her own cell phone. She uses the one, you know, in the Moulin or whatever, and also at JJ's house. And basically, you know, that kind of tells us, you know, she's probably lost her shit a bunch of times while she's traveled. And in The Silent Spy, at the end of the game, you, when you're getting closer to kind of figuring out what Revenant is all about, you know, one of the secret passageways that you discover there before you find Kate's letter to Nancy or whatever, is you see there are luggages suddenly around you, and you're like, who these luggages? Who do they belong to? And so the theory is that Revenant has been after Nancy this whole time pretty much, just kind of like keeping tabs on her and just kind of being the reason why she loses her stuff. Like, they are the ones responsible for all of that. And that one, I think, is a little bit of that's definitely a theory. But really, was her interactive, you know, already like one step ahead of everyone? I'm not too sure. What do you think?
No, of course they weren't. It's 100% like a retcon. It's a retroactive continuity. Like, you know, oh yeah, this was the reason the entire time. But I feel like it tracks still. I don't know. They made sure to like. Well, in some games, like she loses things to like keep up the narrative tension. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, I can't communicate with I don't know, my dad or whatever. Oh no, I can't call the Frankie boys, etc., etc., etc. But they went ahead and used that for the purpose of being like, yeah, actually, this has been the secret organization's fault the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
We planned this. There's a reason for it outside of the Silent Spy existing, but like the Silent Spy giving it an explanation is perfectly fine with me, if I'm honest.
Alright, so our next one is from Shadow at the Water's Edge, an incredible game. Honestly, in my opinion, so fucking good. But we're not here to talk about how good it is. We're here to talk about the conspiracy theory revolving around Kasumi and Mary Ann. That theory being, and it's, you know, kind of similar to what we were talking about with Katie and Jenna, is that they were lovers and that they were girlfriends. And, you know, we know they were pen pals. And we read a few letters that Kasumi, you know, wrote to Mary Ann, and she's talking about her life, she's talking about her kids, and they really seem quite close in these letters, and Kasumi is just so excited to meet up with Mary Ann, and the two really do seem to have this bond. And as we find out, Kasumi was so upset with her mother, Takai, because she did not let her go out and you know, meet up with Mary Ann. She was just like, how dare you? I need to do this. Like, I need to see this person. She means so much to me. We're very close. Like, this is a big deal for me. But no, and then Kasumi goes into the baths, I guess, as an attempt to cool down. But then obviously, you know, that, you know, leads us to the whole thing where, unfortunately, Kasumi does pass away. But yeah, for those reasons that I mentioned, I guess people believe that there's something more to it than that, and that there's an even deeper connection between Kasumi and Mary Ann, and that yeah, and that they basically fell in love, I guess, while they were writing these letters to each other. Your thoughts?
I feel like part of the reason why this theory exists is because I don't think we ever get mention of Yumi and Miwako's father, if one even exists. Assumedly he does. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think Yumi and Miwako are like adopted. I think they're like Kasumi's biological children, surely.
Reading the letters and the things they just kind of like talk about, and the way they're just like, oh, like, I'm so excited to hear from you again, and they're very personal with each other, and like Kasumi is going in detail talking to this person about, you know, her life, and like, it's a lot. I think it's I mean, 10 out of 10, like, fucking friendship, honestly. Like, if they're friends, they have a great friendship. Like, they seem really close, and they seem really great for each other. But I personally like the idea of Kasumi and Mary Ann actually being in love as well. I think that's really sweet. And I think it's bittersweet, then, if you really want to believe that, and then you're like, oh, but this happens to Kasumi. Poor Mary Ann, though, right?
Like, after Kasumi is dead, we don't ever like see any like messages from Marianne, right? She doesn't send any more letters.
Right.
Is that
yeah.
correct? I feel like it's certainly like a plausible theory, but I don't know how much like I buy it. Comments, what do you think? Tell us in the comments below.
Nice one. Okay, Grant, we're about to wrap up and finish the video, but we do have a bonus theory, and I know you're excited for it. I sure am, because who doesn't love a nice big bonus? Did you guys ever maybe consider that Dwayne Powers is Owen Spader?
Wait.
Oh.
Dwayne Powers from
Yeah.
Ransom of the Seven Ships?
I got
Yes.
you kind of speechless for a second there, didn't I?
Oh yeah, for sure. I didn't know what to say here. I didn't even consider. I mean, have you seen Owen Spader? He has that like huge beard and all, and his name is totally different. Like, I don't know.
I mean, his name isn't even Dwayne, it's Owen.
Yeah, exactly. It's Owen. How can an Owen be Dwayne?
Right, but there's a theory that maybe it's the same guy.
At the end of the game, can't you like accuse Owen Spader instead of Dwayne Powers?
I think
I don't think this is actually true. I think I'm lying.
I was playing along. God damn it. Okay, well, there you have it. That was a little bit of a funny haha from yours truly. But yeah, that was our list of theories that we've talked about before and decided to make a video on. Any last thoughts, Grant, before we end it here?
I feel like just about half of these are like plausible enough to be correct. So I think we did a good job with combining like things that could be true and things that are like kind of like outlandish enough to, but still like plausible enough to be considered like, yeah, this could happen. I think my like preferred like theories that I know are like true or like close to being true are probably Ralph in Final Scene, because that's straight up real, and probably Jenna and Katie like dating. That's probably true enough. And and the secret of the old clock taking place in Nancy's mind palace. That's probably true also.
Oh, is it safe to say I convinced you into thinking it wasn't actually Lewis?
What do you mean? It was Lewis.
Shut up! We're not doing this again!
I thought the theory was that it wasn't Lewis. And I disagree.
Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. If I had to pick a favorite from this list, it's definitely Ralph. Like, that one I fucking love talking about that too. And I think it's awesome. But yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. Katie and Jenna being lovers, you know, very probable. But yeah, Grant, thank you so much for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me, just as always. And of course, thank you, the audience, for coming here on this very good day. Tell us what you think about the theories that we have prepared for you. Which ones do you think are real and true?
Once again, shout out to Hugh Miller. Special thanks to that guy. He really kind of helped us out with that one, even though some of us are still not convinced, which I do not understand.
Thanks for watching. Do you have an outro?
Bye.
Yeah, bye.